Good afternoon, students of Chinese YMCA Secondary School. We are now going to play you the news clip from yesterday.
Good evening. We begin our coverage in America on the famous Las Vegas Strip. That's where at least 50 people were killed and more than 100 injured in a mass shooting at a country music festival. Police say the lone wolf suspect, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock from Nevada, was shot and killed in a case they believe is not terror-related. The following video may be disturbing. Hundreds of gunshots rang out, sending people ducking for cover and crawling on the ground to escape.
Put your camera down and come help me. I have to move like several bodies out of the way.
A shooter opened fire at the end of a performance by singer Jason Aldean, who was not hurt. The Route 91 Music Festival was a sold-out event, so 40,000 concert goers were packed there right across the street from the Mandalay Bay Hotel. Frightened witnesses say the sound of machine gun was surreal.
And then it just kept happening and happening, but it literally felt like it just continued for 20 minutes straight. And every time there was a break, we ran and we ran. And I still wasn't even sure if it was actually bullets until one of the times we paused, our friend was like, the guy next to us got shot.
Yeah, I heard it. Boom, 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 boom. And they kept going, even after we left, it just kept going and going. It was insane. We started fleeing. We had to hop a gate to get out. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
SWAT teams rushed to the scene as police began a mass evacuation of part of the Las Vegas Strip.
Please steer clear of the area. We have all the resources from Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department as well as our partner agencies coming down to bear on this situation. So please stay away from the area.
To ensure the suspect didn't get away, a ground stop was initiated at the Las Vegas International Airport for all departing and arriving flights.
Keep moving!
After hunting down the suspect, officers cornered him on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino, where they shot and killed him. They described him as a lone wolf and do not believe there are other suspects involved. They say he was a local of the Las Vegas area and was not connected to any terrorism groups. Police are actively searching for the suspect's companion and roommate. She's described as an Asian woman named Mary Lou Danley.
Officials say a man who fatally stabbed two women outside Marseille's main train station had been detained for shoplifting and released the day before the attack. French authorities are studying the suspect's phone and working to determine if he had accomplices or links to the Islamic State group, which claimed responsibility for Sunday's stabbings. The suspect was killed by soldiers immediately after the attack, the latest of several targeting France. The suspect was identified by his fingerprints, which matched those taken during previous arrests. Officials say the man, who had used multiple fake identities, was not on France's extremist watch list. The victims were cousins between 17 and 21 years old. It's unclear if they had any link to the attacker. A Somali refugee who had been on a watch list over extremist views faces 5 counts of attempted murder and terror charges in Canada. Police say the suspect, who was inside a car on Sunday, hit a police officer standing in front of a football stadium in Edmonton, sending him flying into the air. And then he got out of the car and stabbed the officer multiple times before fleeing. He's also said to have run down 4 pedestrians with the car. Police found an Islamic State flag inside the vehicle. The 30-year-old suspect has not been named. Police admit they investigated him 2 years ago for promoting extremist ideology, but he was not deemed a threat.
Catalonia's regional government has declared a landslide win for the yes side in yesterday's disputed referendum on independence from Spain. But the vote degenerated into mayhem, with more than 800 people and 33 police officers injured in clashes. And now uncertainty looms as Catalonian leaders consider their next move. James Aiken with more.
Officials with the Catalan regional government say 90% of the 2.26 million Catalans who voted chose the yes side in favor of independence. The number of ballots didn't include those confiscated by Spanish police during the raids. After the polls closed, the Catalan president declared victory. Catalonia has won the right to become an independent state, said Carles Puigdemont, adding that he will keep his pledge to declare independence unilaterally, now that the yes side has won. The referendum, which was declared illegal by Spain's central government, has plunged the country into its deepest constitutional crisis in decades. In a show of force, hundreds of Spanish riot police armed with batons and rubber bullets fanned out across the region to prevent the vote. They burst into polling stations, seizing ballot boxes and voting papers, actions that some international observers say were shocking and unacceptable in the European Union.
It's a member state, and with that comes huge responsibilities. And I think the way they've handled the state intervention and trying to manipulate this vote today has been very, very sad.
No one knows what will happen if Catalan officials follow through on their pledge to use the vote as a basis for declaring independence. But the vote has opened the door for Spain's wealthiest region to move for secession as early as this week. In a televised address, Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy said the vote has only deepened divisions.
Con toda rotundidad.
He also thanked the Spanish police, saying they had acted with firmness and serenity. Catalonian officials say Madrid will have to answer to international courts over the police violence and alleged human rights violations. And now some observers speculate that the police crackdown is likely to fuel passion for independence in Catalonia. James Aiken, TVB News.
Britain's fifth largest airline, Monarch, has gone bust. The airline has left passengers fuming as it suspended all flights without notifying the affected travelers. The UK government has asked the Civil Aviation Authority to make arrangements to bring back 110,000 passengers from overseas in the biggest ever peacetime repatriation effort.
We expect the vast majority of the 110,000 Monarch passengers who are currently on holiday with Monarch to come back to the UK within the next 2 weeks. That's exactly what is expected.
We haven't had any emails from Monarch or from On the Beach, which is who we booked with. We haven't heard anything, so no, apart from the news, we wouldn't have known. We would have just gone to the airport and there wouldn't have been anybody there.
The Civil Aviation Authority said in a tweet that it was arranging to have 30 aircraft to bring 110,000 stranded Britons back home free of charge. Financially troubled Monarch became the UK's largest airline to go into administration and has cancelled around 300,000 future bookings. 3 executives from accounting firm KPMG were appointed as administrators for the airline. European carriers have been struggling amid tough competition and mounting cost pressures. Air Berlin and Alitalia filed for insolvency earlier this year and are seeking new investors for parts of their operations.
British Chancellor of the Exchequer Philip Hammond has thrown his weight behind Prime Minister Theresa May as she struggles to unite her own party amid Brexit negotiations. Hammond lashed out at Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, saying his interventions risk weakening the UK's negotiating power. Jeff Tang reports.
British Prime Minister Theresa May might insist that all's well within her party, but the cracks are showing. On the second day of the ruling Conservative Party's annual conference in the northern English city of Manchester, Chancellor of the Exchequer Philip Hammond opened fire at outspoken Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. In an unusually frank interview, Hammond admitted to a local newspaper that while many top ministers are frustrated by the slow pace of Brexit negotiations, he singled out Johnson for not keeping to the agreed cabinet line over Brexit. He was referring to a series of newspaper articles and interviews by Johnson in which he set out his personal red lines for Brexit. Hammond also said blatantly that Johnson was not unsackable and urged cabinet ministers to show more unity in order to have a stronger hand in Brexit negotiations. His staunch defence comes as May struggles to unite a divided nation after last year's controversial Brexit referendum. Yesterday, as the Tories kicked off their 4-day annual conference in Manchester, thousands protested outside the venue, demanding Britain stay in the European Union. Reports say Tory membership shrank by 1/4 after the Brexit referendum, while the opposition Labour Party exceeded 600,000 members last week, 4 times that of their rivals.
Because Brexit is more important than any single party. There were 4 million Conservatives who voted Remain in 2016, and many of them are very disappointed at the way the government has handled this problem and are really keen for people to speak out to say stop the Brexit madness.
But May is adamant that the country should forge ahead with its divorce from the European Union. Speaking in an earlier interview with BBC Television, she dismissed talk of rifts among her top ministers, saying they were united on their programme and, more importantly, Brexit. May also apologised for losing her party's majority in the election in June, but insists she has the right strategy to lead the country and win a Brexit deal that would benefit the UK. Jeff Tang, TVB News.